My son threw me away like garbage to steal my house. March 8th, 2024. My son Derek and his wife Brittany signed guardianship papers claiming I had memory issues. Within 2 hours, I was sitting in Shady Oaks nursing home while they celebrated back at my $1.8 million house. The house I built from nothing after arriving from Poland with $200. Derek's a lawyer, Northwestern Law School. I paid every cent of his $180,000 education with these immigrant hands. But as they toasted their brilliant plan to free up the house, I wasn't crying, wasn't begging. I was calculating. Because my entitled son just made the biggest mistake of his legal career. He forgot that the man who built an empire from $200 didn't get stupid at 71. If you want to hear what happened next, please subscribe. This story's just getting started. Let me take you back to how this betrayal started. I came to America in 1978. 28 years old, spoke maybe 50 words of English, carried everything I owned in one suitcase. But I had something Derek never understood: hunger. Within 6 months, I was swinging a hammer for Murphy Construction. Within 2 years, I'd saved enough to buy my first truck. By 1982, I incorporated Kowalski Construction. Just me and a toolbox that cost me $47 at Sears. Derek was born in 1981. Never knew poverty. Never knew what it meant to work 16-hour days just to put food on the table. While I was building houses, he was complaining about his PlayStation being outdated. But I didn't mind. This was why I came to America, so my son could have opportunities I never had. I put Derek through Northwestern Law School every semester, $15,000, 4 years, $180,000 total. I have the receipts, kept every single one in my filing cabinet, organized by year. That's what immigrants do. We document everything because we know nobody gives us the benefit of the doubt. By 2024, Kowalski Construction employed 52 people. We'd built over 300 homes in the Chicago suburbs. My personal net worth? Just over $4 million. Not bad for a guy who couldn't pronounce entrepreneur when he started. The house Derek wanted so badly. I bought it in 1985 for $180,000. Prime real estate in Wilmette, 4 bedrooms, Tudor style, built in 1954. Today's value, $1.8 million. Mortgage-free since 2008. But Derek saw all of this differently. To him, I wasn't a successful businessman. I was an embarrassing immigrant dad who spoke with an accent and used the wrong fork at fancy restaurants. The end began 3 weeks ago. March 4th, Monday evening, 7:30 p.m. Derek called a family meeting at his downtown office. 31st floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs that probably cost more than my first car. "Dad, we need to talk about your future," Derek said, adjusting his $3,000 Armani suit. Brittany sat beside him, nodding like a dashboard bobblehead. She'd been posting on Facebook about how difficult it was dealing with aging in-laws. I'd seen the posts. She thought I didn't understand social media. "We're concerned about your memory," Derek continued. "Last week you forgot where you put your keys." "I found them in the refrigerator," I said. "Exactly." Derek exchanged a look with Brittany. "That's not normal, Dad." Normal? I'd been putting my keys in the refrigerator since 1979. It was a habit I picked up from my father in Poland. Keeps them cold so you remember to grab them with your coffee. But Derek had never paid attention to my habits. Why start now? "We think you'd be happier somewhere with people your own age," Brittany added. "Somewhere you don't have to worry about maintaining that big house." That big house. The way she said it, like it was a burden instead of my life's work. "And what happens to my house?" I asked. Derek cleared his throat. "We'd handle the sale. Make sure you get a fair price. Put the money in a trust for your care." A trust, controlled by Derek. They had it all figured out. Shady Oaks Nursing Home cost $8,500 per month. Quality care, they said. Professional staff. Activities. I'd love it there. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. "Planning?" Derek laughed. "Dad, we're trying to help you. This is about your safety, your well-being." But I saw the brochure on his desk. Shady Oaks. And underneath it, a real estate market analysis for my house. Dated 2 weeks earlier. They'd been planning this for months. "I'll think about it," I said. Derek's jaw tightened. Dad, this isn't really a choice. We've already filed the paperwork. What paperwork? Guardianship petition. Based on your declining mental capacity. He slid a folder across the desk. 23 pages of lies. Clinical language describing my confusion, my inability to make sound financial decisions, my dangerous living situation. My dangerous living situation. The house I'd maintained perfectly for 39 years. I flipped through the pages. Derek had been thorough. Statements from neighbors about my erratic behavior, like the time I was watering my garden at 6 a.m. because it was going to be a hot day. Testimony from his secretary about my aggressive phone calls, because I'd raised my voice when Derek missed our lunch appointment for the third time. This is fiction, I said quietly. It's reality, Dad. You're 71 years old. It's time to face facts. Facts. My son, the lawyer, talking about facts. Here were the real facts. Kowalski Construction's gross revenue in 2023 was $12.7 million. I personally oversaw 8 major projects. My last physical exam, February 15th, showed blood pressure 120/80. Cholesterol levels normal. Cognitive function test scored 29 out of 30. But Derek had never asked to see those medical records. He was too busy writing his fiction. Sign here, Derek said, pointing to the guardianship consent form. It'll make everything easier. I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become a stranger? I need time to consider this, I said. Derek's patience snapped. Time. Dad, you don't have time. The hearing is Wednesday. This happens with or without your cooperation. With or without my cooperation. My own son threatening me like a hostile witness. I signed the papers that night, not because I agreed, but because I needed to see how far they'd go. Now I know. They went all the way. Wednesday, March 6th. The guardianship hearing lasted 47 minutes. I sat in Cook County Courthouse, listening to my son lie under oath. Derek presented his case with the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged. Medical concerns, safety issues, financial vulnerability. The judge, an overworked woman in her 50s, barely looked up from her paperwork. She'd seen 1,000 cases like this. Aging parent, concerned children, standard procedure. Guardianship granted, she announced, effective immediately. Derek shook hands with his attorney. Brittany smiled and squeezed his arm. Victory celebration. I said nothing, just watched and memorized every detail. By Friday afternoon, I was sitting in room 237 at Shady Oaks. Beige walls, industrial carpet, the smell of disinfectant and despair. My new home, according to my loving family. The staff was polite but distant. They'd seen it before. Another elderly man whose family had made the difficult decision. They brought me pudding cups and asked about my television preferences. Derek and Brittany came by Saturday morning. Official visit. Checking on Dad's adjustment period. You look good, Dad, Derek said, glancing around the room like he was inspecting a hotel. This place has excellent reviews. Excellent reviews. I wondered if he'd read the online complaints about understaffing and medication errors. Probably not. Derek only researched things that benefited Derek. They stayed 23 minutes. Long enough to ease their conscience, short enough to avoid real conversation. After they left, I sat by my window and thought about chess. My father taught me to play when I was 8 years old. First lesson, always think 3 moves ahead. Derek thought he'd won. But the game was just beginning. Sunday evening, March 10th, 6:47 p.m. I was walking past the nurse's station when I heard Derek's voice coming from the family conference room. The door was cracked open, maybe 2 inches. He was on speakerphone with Brittany. The old man bought it completely, Derek was saying. Didn't even fight the guardianship. I stopped walking, pressed myself against the wall, and listened. Thank God, Brittany replied through the speaker. I was worried he'd cause problems. You know how these immigrant types can be stubborn? These immigrant types. He's totally defeated, Derek continued, sitting in that room like a whipped dog. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. When do we list the house? Brittany asked. Already called the realtor. Market analysis says we should ask $1.95 million, settle around 1.8. Hot market right now. Perfect. And the business? That's trickier. 52 employees, ongoing contracts. But Dad's partners know he's incompetent now. They'll buy us out to avoid complications. Incompetent. My business partner's men I'd worked with for 20 years thought I was incompetent because my son told them so. How much from the business? Brittany pressed. Conservative estimate? 2 million. Maybe more if we play it right. I was listening to my son calculate my net worth like I was already dead. So, total liquidation, we're looking at what, 4 million? Give or take, minus the nursing home costs, but that's minimal. Dad's got maybe 10 years left. 15 if he's unlucky. Shady Oaks costs $100,000 annually. We're still looking at $3.5 million minimum, if he's unlucky. Derek was hoping I'd die sooner rather than later. What about the cultural stuff? Brittany asked. All those Polish books and photos? Derek laughed. Actually laughed. Garbage pickup is Tuesdays. I'll handle it. My life's memories. Garbage pickup. Good, Brittany said. I never could stand all that old world crap anyway. The house will show much better without the immigrant museum vibe. Immigrant museum vibe. Honestly, Derek continued, this worked out better than I hoped. Dad's completely broken. No fight left in him whatsoever. You sure he won't cause problems later? Look at him, Britt. He's done. These old immigrants, once they lose face, they just give up. It's cultural. Pride thing, cultural, pride thing. Derek thought he understood Polish culture because he'd heard me mention honor and respect a few times. But he'd missed the most important lesson. Polish men don't get even. We get ahead. So, timeline? Brittany asked. House on the market Monday. Business liquidation within 60 days. By summer, we'll have enough to buy that place in Highland Park and still have $2 million invested. Highland Park. They were buying their dream house with my life's work. I can't believe we pulled this off, Brittany giggled. Your dad actually signed the papers. Like I said, he bought it completely. Thinks we're concerned about his welfare. They both laughed then, my son and his wife laughing about how easily they'd destroyed my life. Best part, Derek added, is that it's all legal. Guardianship gives us total control. He can complain all he wants. Who's going to listen to a confused old immigrant? A confused old immigrant? I'd heard enough. I walked back to room 237, closed the door, and sat on my narrow bed. The walls seemed smaller now. The beige paint looked dirtier. But I wasn't defeated. I wasn't broken. And I certainly wasn't confused. I was furious. Derek had made two critical mistakes. First, he assumed that quiet meant weak. Second, he forgot that the confused old immigrant still owned everything he was planning to steal. The house deed was in my name only. The business partnerships were structured to require my personal signature for any major decisions. Derek's guardianship gave him power over my daily care, not my property rights. My son, the lawyer, had overlooked some very important legal details. Time to teach him about Polish pride. Monday morning, March 11th, 6:23 a.m., I sat in my nursing home bed, watching the sunrise through my small window. Derek thought I was broken. Brittany thought I was garbage. They both thought I was finished. They were about to learn the difference between defeated and strategic. I'd spent the night cataloging everything I owned. Not just the big items, the house, the business, the investments, but every detail that mattered. The house at 847 Maple Street, Wilmette. Purchased May 15th, 1985. Deed filed in my name only. Illinois property law is clear. Guardianship doesn't transfer property ownership. Derek could make decisions about my health care, my living situation, even my daily expenses. But he couldn't sell what he didn't own. Kowalski Construction, LLC, Incorporated, October 3rd, 1982. I owned 60%. My business partners, Tom Rodriguez and Jim Casey, owned 20% each. Company bylaws required unanimous consent for major decisions, including ownership transfers. Derek's guardianship meant nothing here. Chase bank account, $847,000 in liquid assets. Derek had access as guardian, but every transaction over $10,000 required court approval. He'd need to justify every expense to Judge Martinez. Investment portfolio through Merrill Lynch. $1.2 million in stocks and bonds. Same rules applied. The beautiful thing about American legal system? It protects property rights. Derek knew family law and corporate litigation. But real estate law? Property transfers? He'd focused on the wrong specialty. I smiled, thinking about his Northwestern Law School education, $180,000, and he'd missed the most basic principle. You can't steal what you don't legally control. But I had bigger plans than just blocking Derek's theft. I was going to turn his betrayal into his destruction. 7:15 a.m. I used the nursing home phone to call my attorney, not some overpriced downtown firm like Derek preferred. I called Walter Kowalczyk, a 73-year-old Polish-American lawyer who'd handled my business matters for 22 years. Walter understood loyalty, he understood family, and he definitely understood what Derek had tried to pull. Stanley? What the hell is this guardianship nonsense? It's exactly what you think, Walter. Your son's trying to rob you. Trying is the key word. Walter was quiet for a moment. What do you need? I want to reverse the guardianship. File a motion claiming fraud and false testimony. Easy enough. Your medical records alone will destroy Derek's case. But Stanley, why are you whispering? I looked toward my door. I'm calling from Shady Oaks. Derek doesn't know I'm fighting back. Jesus Christ, he actually put you in a home? He did. And Walter, I want to sell the house. Another pause. Sell it? To who? The Polish-American Cultural Center on Milwaukee Avenue. You know the place. Walter whistled softly. That's how... Brilliant. They'd love to have a property like that. But Stanley, your house is worth $1.8 million. The Cultural Center doesn't have that kind of money. They don't need it. I'm donating the house. Full charitable contribution. Tax write-off, and Derek gets nothing. You want to give away $1.8 million out of spite? Not spite, Walter. Justice. And it's not giving it away. It's investing in something that matters. The Cultural Center can use it for educational programs, community meetings, immigrant success stories. I could hear Walter typing on his computer. This is legally sound, Stanley. Guardianship doesn't prevent charitable donations, especially from competent individuals, and your medical records prove competency. How fast can we do this? Motion to reverse guardianship? I can file today. House donation? More complicated, but if you're determined, 72 hours, maybe less. 72 hours. Derek's realtor was planning to list the house Thursday morning. I'd beat him by 48 hours. Do it, I said. Stanley, are you sure? This is permanent. Once you sign those donation papers, there's no going back. I thought about Derek's laughter, about Brittany calling my memories garbage, about them stealing my life's work and buying their Highland Park dream house with the proceeds. I'm sure. What about your son? This will destroy him financially. Walter, my son just spent 2 weeks convincing a judge I'm mentally incompetent so he could steal everything I built. He threw me in a nursing home like garbage and laughed about it. He's already destroyed our relationship. I'm just returning the favor. Walter was quiet for 30 seconds. Then, I'll start the paperwork. But Stanley, you might want to think about timing. What do you mean? Derek's planning some kind of celebration, right? Probably invited friends, family, maybe his real estate agent. Might be interesting if certain news broke during their little party. Now I was the one laughing. Walter, that's why I've kept you as my lawyer for 22 years. Polish men stick together, especially against entitled American brats who forget where they came from. After I hung up, I sat back on my bed and looked around room 237. Beige walls, industrial carpet, the smell of institutional disinfectant. In 72 hours, none of this would matter. Derek would learn that his old world father had just played a very, very American game and won. Tuesday, March 12th, 9:30 a.m. Walter called back with news that made my coffee taste better. Motion filed and served, he said. Derek's law firm received the papers an hour ago. Judge Martinez scheduled an emergency hearing for Thursday at 2 p.m. What's Derek's reaction? His secretary called my office 6 times in the last hour. Derek wants to schedule a meeting. He's panicking. Good. Let him panic. But I wasn't done gathering intelligence. I had 48 hours to build an airtight case, and I needed to know exactly what Derek had been telling people. First call. Dr. Patricia Morrison, my primary physician for 12 years. Stanley, I heard about the nursing home situation. I have to say, I was surprised. Why surprised? Well, your son Derek called last month asking about your mental state. Said the family was concerned about memory issues, decision-making problems. I told him your February exam showed perfect cognitive function, scored 29 out of 30 on the Montreal test. Above average for your age group. Derek had lied to the court about my medical condition, but he'd also lied about consulting my doctor. Did Derek request copies of my medical records? No, and that struck me as odd. If he was genuinely concerned, wouldn't he want documentation? Instead, he seemed more interested in whether I'd noticed any decline. More evidence. I asked Dr. Morrison to prepare a written statement about my cognitive health in Derek's phone call. Second call. Tom Rodriguez, my business partner at Kowalski Construction. Stan, what the hell is going on? Derek came by yesterday claiming you'd asked him to handle business decisions because you're having memory problems. My jaw tightened. What exactly did he say? Said you were confused about financial matters, couldn't handle the stress of running a company, wanted to discuss buying out your share of the business. And what did you tell him? I told him to go to hell. Stan, you were here last Friday reviewing the Northbrook project. Sharp as ever. If you're having memory problems, I'm having memory problems. Tom agreed to document Derek's visit and his claims about my mental state. Third call. My neighbor, Mrs. Helen Patterson, 78 years old, lived next door for 15 years. Oh, Stanley, I'm so sorry about the nursing home. Though I have to say, some of the things Derek told people around the neighborhood, such as, he said you'd been acting erratically, wandering around at night, forgetting to pay bills, letting the house fall apart. Said the family was worried about your safety. I looked out my nursing home window at the gray parking lot. Helen, when was the last time you saw me acting erratically? She laughed. You're the most organized person I know. Your lawn is always perfect. Your bills are always paid on time. The only erratic thing I've seen is you watering your garden at 6 a.m, but you've done that for years. Mrs. Patterson had been mentioned in Derek's guardianship petition as a concerned neighbor who'd witnessed my declining mental state. She'd never spoken to Derek in her life. Fourth call, James Murphy at First National Bank, where I'd kept my accounts for 18 years. Mr. Kowalski, your son was here last week asking about your finances. Said he needed to understand your assets because of your declining health. Did you give him information? Of course not. Banking privacy laws. But he seemed very interested in your account balances and investment portfolio. Kept asking about your competency to handle financial decisions. Murphy confirmed that Derek had never mentioned guardianship during his visit. He'd been fishing for information while lying about his legal authority. By noon, I had statements from my doctor, business partners, neighbor, and banker. All confirmed the same thing. Derek had been spreading lies about my mental state while gathering intelligence about my assets. Walter called at 1:45 p.m. Stanley, this is better than I hoped. Derek's guardianship petition's built on pure fiction. Every witness he claimed either doesn't exist or contradicts his testimony. What about the cultural center donation? Board meeting tonight at 7. I've explained the situation. They're very interested, but they want to meet you first. I'm stuck in a nursing home, Walter. Not anymore. I got you a day pass for the meeting. Medical necessity, you need to review legal documents. At 6:30 p.m., I walked into the Polish American Cultural Center on Milwaukee Avenue. First time I'd left Shady Oaks in 4 days. The building was beautiful. Restored 1920s mansion, hardwood floors, stained glass windows. Photos of Polish immigrants lined the walls, men and women who'd built lives from nothing, just like me. The board was waiting. 12 successful Polish Americans who understood exactly what Derek had tried to do. Mr. Kowalski, said the board president, we'd be honored to accept your donation. Time for phase 2 of my plan. Wednesday, March 13th, 8:15 a.m. I woke up in room 237 for what I hoped would be the last time. Walter had worked through the night. By morning, 3 sets of legal papers were filed with Cook County Courthouse. Motion to reverse guardianship, property donation agreement, an emergency injunction to prevent asset seizure. Derek had no idea what was coming. At 9:45 a.m., I called the Polish American Cultural Center. Mrs. Kowalski, said Board President Maria Novak, we've finalized the paperwork. Your house will become the Stanley Kowalski Center for Immigrant Success. We'll use it for educational programs, community meetings, and a museum showcasing Polish-American achievements. A museum. Derek had called my memories garbage, but the cultural center wanted to preserve and celebrate them. "When do we close?" I asked. "This afternoon. 2 o'clock. Can you be there?" "I'll be there." At 11:30 a.m., my phone rang. Derek. "Dad, what the hell's going on?" My office received some kind of legal motion. His voice was tight, panicked. The confident lawyer from Monday was gone. "Just some paperwork, Derek." "Paperwork? You're trying to reverse the guardianship. On what grounds?" "Fraud. False testimony. Elder abuse." I kept my voice calm, matter of fact. "Walter says we have a strong case." "Walter Kowalczyk?" "Dad, he's ancient. You need real legal representation. Real legal representation. Like Derek. Walter's been handling my affairs since before you passed the bar exam. This is insane. Dad, I'm trying to help you. The guardianship protects your interests." "Whose interests, Derek? Mine or yours?" Silence on the line. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sunday night, conference room at Shady Oaks. You were on speakerphone with Brittany." More silence. Longer this time. "Dad, I heard everything. The house sale, the business liquidation, Highland Park, all of it." Derek's breathing changed. "You were eavesdropping?" "I was walking past an open door." "You were discussing my death timeline and how much money you'd make." "That's not—" "Dad, you're confused. You misunderstood." "I misunderstood garbage pickup is Tuesday when you talked about throwing away my Polish books." Derek was quiet for 30 seconds. "Okay," he said finally. "Maybe we were premature in some of our planning. But Dad, you need care, professional supervision. I need respect, Derek. Something you forgot how to give. This is emotional. You're not thinking clearly. Let me come over and we'll talk." Too late for talking. I hung up. At 2 p.m., I sat in Walter's office signing donation papers. The house at 847 Maple Street, worth $1.8 million, was officially transferred to the Polish-American Cultural Center. Derek would get nothing. At 2:47 p.m., my phone exploded with calls. Derek had discovered the property transfer. His realtor had arrived at the house to find a sold sign in the yard, and Cultural Center representatives measuring rooms for their Immigrant Success Museum. I didn't answer Derek's calls. Let him panic. At 4:15 p.m., Derek appeared at Shady Oaks. Brittany was with him, looking like someone had died. They found me in the recreation room playing chess with another resident. "Dad, what have you done?" Derek's face was red, his expensive suit wrinkled. "I donated my house to charity." Very American thing to do. "You can't do that. You're under guardianship. Guardianship doesn't prevent charitable donations, especially when the guardian obtained his authority through fraud." Brittany stepped forward. "Stanley, be reasonable. We can work something out." "Work something out? Like you worked out stealing my house while I was stuck in this place?" Derek pulled up a chair. "Dad, I know you're angry. Maybe we moved too fast, but you can reverse the donation. We'll find a different solution." "Derek, the donation is final. Irrevocable. Your dream house in Highland Park? Find a different way to pay for it." "This is insane." Derek's lawyer voice was back. "I'll challenge the donation." "Claim diminished capacity. Based on what medical evidence?" "Dr. Morrison will testify I'm perfectly competent. So will my business partners. So will my neighbors." Derek looked confused. "What neighbors?" "The ones you claimed were worried about my erratic behavior. Mrs. Patterson says she's never spoken to you in her life." Derek's face went pale. He'd forgotten that lies have consequences. "You can't do this to us," Brittany whined. "We have plans." "Financial obligations." I looked at my son's wife. "Brittany, you called my life's memories garbage. You called my home an immigrant museum. Why would you want garbage?" Derek stood up. "This isn't over?" "Yes, Derek." "It is." They left without another word. Tomorrow's guardianship hearing would be interesting. Thursday, March 14th, 6:32 a.m. Derek wasn't giving up without a fight. I woke to find 3 voicemails on my phone, all from Derek's law firm. Emergency motions, injunctions, threats of criminal charges for financial elder abuse. My son was using every legal trick he knew. At 7:15 a.m., Walter called. "Stanley, Derek filed 6 different motions overnight. He's claiming you were coerced into the donation, says the cultural center took advantage of your diminished mental state. What's his evidence? He doesn't have any, but he's hoping to delay everything until he can manufacture some. Derek was desperate, and desperate lawyers make mistakes. At 8:30 a.m., Derek appeared at Shady Oaks with two associates from his firm. They marched into the lobby like they owned the place. "We need to see Stanley Kowalski immediately," Derek announced to the receptionist. The young woman looked intimidated. "Visiting hours don't start until I'm his son and legal guardian. This is an emergency." They found me in the dining room eating breakfast with three other residents. Derek's associates flanked him like bodyguards. Intimidation tactics. "Dad, we need to talk. Privately." "I'm eating breakfast, Derek. These are my friends, Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Chen, and Father Murphy." Derek glanced at the other residents dismissively. "This is family business. Everything you've done to me has been family business. I think they should hear this." Derek's jaw tightened. "Fine. Dad, you've made a serious mistake. The house donation was illegal. Based on what law? Guardianship statutes clearly state that major financial decisions require court approval." I smiled. "Derek, charitable donations aren't financial decisions. They're personal choices. The law protects the right to give away your own property." One of Derek's associates whispered something in his ear. Derek nodded. "Actually, Dad, there's another problem. The Cultural Center doesn't qualify for this type of donation. It's not a registered 501c3 organization." Walter had prepared me for this lie. "Derek, the Polish-American Cultural Center has been a registered nonprofit since 1967. IRS determination, letter number 74-2581. Would you like me to recite their tax exemption status?" Derek's face flushed. His associates looked uncomfortable. "Look," Derek said, switching tactics. "Maybe we can find a compromise. You want to support Polish culture? Fine. We'll set up a trust fund. Donate part of the house proceeds." "How much were you thinking? 20,000, 30, 20,000 out of $1.8 million?" Mrs. Chen, sitting beside me, snorted with disgust. "Young man, your father gave away nearly $2 million to preserve his heritage. You're offering crumbs." Derek turned to her. "Ma'am, this is a private family matter." "Nothing private about disrespecting your elders," Mrs. Chen replied. "In Chinese culture, we honor our parents. We don't steal from them." Father Murphy nodded. "Son, I've been a priest for 47 years. I've seen family greed before. But what you've done here—" He shook his head. Derek was losing control of the narrative. "These people don't understand the complexities." "We understand perfectly," Mr. Peterson interrupted. "You put your father in this place so you could steal his house. He outsmarted you. Now you're angry." Derek's second associate tugged his sleeve. "Maybe we should continue this conversation elsewhere." But Derek wasn't finished. His ego couldn't handle being lectured by nursing home residents. "You people have no idea what you're talking about. My father has dementia. Early stages, but progressive. He's not competent to make major decisions." "Derek," I said quietly, "yesterday you claimed I was perfectly competent when you wanted me to reverse the donation. That's different." "How?" Derek paused, realizing his contradiction. Because the donation was made under duress." "What duress?" "The cultural center pressured you. Took advantage of your emotional state." Mrs. Chen laughed. "Your father contacted them, not the other way around. We heard him make the call." Derek spun toward her. "You were eavesdropping?" "Hard not to hear when someone's making phone calls 10 feet away," Father Murphy said. "Your father was calm, rational, completely in control." Derek's face was bright red now. "None of you are qualified to assess mental competency." "But Dr. Morrison is," I said. "She'll testify this afternoon that I'm perfectly competent. So will my business partners. So will my neighbors." "Your neighbors are concerned about your behavior." "Which neighbors, Derek?" "Name one." Silence. "You can't, because you never spoke to any of them." "You made up their testimony for the guardianship petition." Derek's associates were looking at each other nervously. They were witnessing their colleague commit potential perjury in front of witnesses. "This is ridiculous," Derek snapped. "I don't have to justify my actions to a bunch of nursing home residents." "No," said Father Murphy, standing up slowly, "but you'll have to justify them to God and to the State Bar Association." Derek went pale. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said calmly, that filing false guardianship petitions is a criminal offense. So is elder abuse. So is fraud. Derek looked at his associates. Both men were studying their phones, suddenly very interested in their messages. You're bluffing, Derek said. We'll find out this afternoon, won't we? Derek turned and walked out without another word. His associates followed, leaving behind the stench of desperation and expensive cologne. Mrs. Chen patted my hand. Your son seems nice. I laughed despite everything. He gets it from his mother's side. Thursday, March 14th, 1:45 p.m. Cook County Courthouse, room 204. Judge Martinez's courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row with Walter. Derek sat across the aisle with his 3 associates, shuffling papers nervously. Behind us, the gallery was filled with people Derek hadn't expected to see. Maria Novak, from the Polish-American Cultural Center, Dr. Morrison, my physician, Tom Rodriguez, and Jim Casey from Kowalski Construction, Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, even Mrs. Chen, Mr. Peterson, and Father Murphy from Shady Oaks had come to support me. Derek kept glancing back at the crowd, his confidence visibly shrinking. All rise. The Honorable Judge Elena Martinez, presiding. Judge Martinez was the same woman who'd granted Derek's guardianship petition 6 days earlier, but today she looked more alert, more engaged. We're here for an emergency motion to reverse guardianship in the matter of Kowalski versus Kowalski. Mr. Kowalczyk, you filed this motion? Walter stood. Yes, Your Honor. We're requesting immediate reversal based on fraud and false testimony in the original petition. Serious allegations. What's your evidence? 4 witnesses, Your Honor, plus medical documentation proving Mr. Stanley Kowalski is fully competent. Judge Martinez turned to Derek. Mr. Kowalski, you filed counter motions claiming your father was coerced into making a large donation while mentally incompetent. Derek stood, straightening his tie. Yes, Your Honor. My father donated $1.8 million to an organization he barely knows. This demonstrates impaired judgment. Who witnessed this alleged coercion? Derek paused. Your Honor, coercion doesn't require witnesses. The act itself demonstrates. Mr. Kowalski, do you have any evidence of coercion? Phone recordings? Threatening letters? Witnesses who saw inappropriate pressure? No direct evidence, but the circumstances. I see. Mr. Kowalczyk, call your first witness. Dr. Morrison took the stand. Under oath, she testified that my cognitive function was normal for my age group. Better than normal, actually. Did Derek Kowalski ever request his father's medical records? Walter asked. No. He called asking about mental decline, but when I told him there was no evidence of cognitive issues, he seemed disappointed. Derek's face tightened. Tom Rodriguez testified next. He described Derek's visit to Kowalski Construction, claiming I was mentally incompetent while trying to buy out my business shares. How did Stanley seem during your last business meeting? Walter asked. Sharp as ever. We reviewed 3 major contracts. He caught an accounting error that saved us $12,000. Mrs. Patterson followed. She testified that Derek had never spoken to her, despite claiming in his petition that she was concerned about my erratic behavior. In 15 years as Stanley's neighbor, have you ever witnessed concerning behavior? Never. He's the most reliable person I know. The only unusual thing is that he waters his garden at 6 a.m., but he's done that since I've known him. Derek was fidgeting now, whispering urgently to his associates. Judge Martinez called a 15-minute recess. During the break, Derek cornered me in the hallway. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Let's make a deal. What kind of deal? You reverse the house donation, I'll reverse the guardianship. We'll call it even. I looked at my son. Even? Derek, you stole my freedom, destroyed my reputation, and tried to rob my life's work. You think we're even? I was protecting you. From what? Derek couldn't answer. When court resumed, Walter called me to testify. Mr. Kowalski, why did you donate your house? Because my son and his wife made it clear they saw my life's work as nothing but money to steal. The Cultural Center will preserve Polish immigrant history. They'll teach young people that America rewards hard work and perseverance. Did anyone pressure you to make this donation? No. It was my decision. My property. My right. Derek's attorney cross-examined me, trying to find evidence of confusion or coercion. I answered every question clearly, calmly, with specific dates and details. Finally, Judge Martinez called Derek to testify. Mr. Derek Kowalski, did you speak to your father's physician before filing the guardianship petition? I called her office. Did you request medical records? No, Your Honor. Did you speak to any of the neighbors mentioned in your petition? Derek hesitated. I gathered information from multiple sources. That's not what I asked. Did you personally speak to Mrs. Helen Patterson? Not directly. Did you speak to any neighbors directly? No, Your Honor. Judge Martinez reviewed Derek's petition. Mr. Kowalski, your petition claims Mrs. Patterson witnessed erratic behavior. She testified today that you've never spoken to her. How do you explain this discrepancy? Derek was sweating now. I may have misunderstood the source of that information. You misunderstood? Or you fabricated it? The courtroom was silent. Your Honor, I was acting in my father's best interests based on the information available. What information? You didn't consult his doctor, his business partners, or his neighbors. What information did you base this petition on? Derek couldn't answer. Judge Martinez didn't need to hear more. Guardianship reversed. Immediately. Mr. Derek Kowalski, I'm referring this matter to the State Bar Association for investigation of potential fraud and perjury. The gallery erupted in applause. Maria Novak was crying. Tom Rodriguez was grinning. Mrs. Patterson was nodding with satisfaction. Derek sat frozen as his legal career crumbled around him. As we left the courthouse, reporters were waiting outside. The Polish-American Cultural Center had issued a press release about the donation, and local news stations were interested in the story. Mr. Kowalski, how does it feel to have your freedom restored? A reporter asked. I looked back at Derek, who was hurrying toward his car. It feels like justice. Friday, March 15th, 7:30 a.m. I woke up in my own bed for the first time in 7 days. Walter had driven me home from court yesterday evening. The house felt different. Not because Derek had changed anything, but because I saw it through new eyes. This wasn't just my home anymore. In 6 months, it would become the Stanley Kowalski Center for Immigrant Success. The thought made me smile. My phone had been ringing since 6 a.m. Reporters, friends, business associates. Word was spreading fast. The Chicago Tribune ran the story on page 3. Immigrants' $1.8 million donation exposes family fraud. The Sun-Times called it the American Dream's Revenge. Polish-language radio stations were calling me a hero. But the most interesting call came at 8:45 a.m. Mr. Kowalski, this is Janet Morrison from Channel 7 News. We'd like to do a feature story about your situation. What kind of feature? Elder abuse through guardianship fraud. It's more common than people realize. Your case could help other families. Other families? I hadn't thought about that. We've also received calls from 3 law firms. They want to discuss representing other families in similar situations. Derek had opened a door he couldn't close. At 10:30 a.m., Tom Rodriguez called from the construction office. Stan, you need to see this. Derek's law firm just issued a statement. He read it over the phone. Henderson, Walsh, and Associates announces that Derek Kowalski is no longer associated with our firm. We do not condone the actions described in recent media reports. Derek had been fired. 20-year career, gone. There's more, Tom continued. 3 of Derek's clients called this morning. They want to transfer their cases to other attorneys. Word's getting around the legal community fast. At 11:15 a.m., Brittany called. She was crying. Stanley, please. You have to help us. Derek's destroyed. No law firm will hire him. We might lose our house. Their house. Not the Highland Park mansion they'd planned to buy with my money. Their current house. Mortgaged to the limit. Brittany, what do you want me to do? Reverse the donation. Please. We'll give you half. Derek learned his lesson. Half of my own money. What lesson did Derek learn? That family comes first. That he shouldn't have put you in that place. And that we should have talked to you before making decisions. She still didn't understand. This wasn't about process or communication. This was about respect. Brittany, Derek called my life's memories garbage. You said my house had an immigrant museum vibe. You laughed about my death timeline. What lesson covers that? She was quiet for 30 seconds. We were wrong. We said terrible things. But Stanley, we're family. Family doesn't throw family in nursing homes to steal their property. Please, Derek's career is ruined. Isn't that enough? It's not about enough, Brittany. It's about consequences. I hung up. At 1 p.m., I drove to the Polish American Cultural Center. Maria Nowak showed me the architectural plans for converting my house into a community center. The living room will be our main meeting space, she explained. The kitchen will be perfect for cooking classes. Traditional Polish recipes. Your study will become a library of immigrant success stories. What about the basement? Museum space. We want to display photos and artifacts from Polish families who built lives in America. Your construction company awards, your immigration documents, your father's tools from the old country. My father's tools. I'd kept them in a glass case for 30 years. Derek thought they were junk. When do we begin renovations? 6 months. We need time to raise money for the conversion. The house is worth $1.8 million, but making it functional as a community center will cost another $400,000. I'll cover the renovation costs, I said. Maria stared at me. Stanley, you've already given us everything. Not everything. I still have the business, investments, other assets. What's another $400,000 to ensure this place serves the community for 50 years? That evening, I sat in my study, looking through old photo albums. Pictures of my arrival in America, my first construction job, Derek's graduation from law school, me smiling proudly in the audience. When had we lost each other? Derek called at 8:30 p.m. Dad, I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I'm listening. I've been thinking about what you said in court. About respect. You're right. I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as an obstacle. For the first time in years, Derek sounded like my son instead of a lawyer. Why, Derek? I don't know. Maybe because your success made me feel like nothing I accomplished was really mine. You paid for law school, helped with my first house down payment, gave me everything. I wanted something that was just mine. So you decided to take everything that was mine. Yes, and I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong. I waited. Dad, I can't undo what I did. But I want you to know, I remember who you are, what you built, what you sacrificed. Derek, remembering isn't enough anymore. I know, but maybe it's a start. Maybe it was. 6 months later, September 21st, 2024, grand opening of the Stanley Kowalski Center for Immigrant Success. I stood on the front steps of my former home, watching 300 people fill the rooms where Derek and I had once shared family dinners, Polish families, Mexican families, Nigerian families, all celebrating the American dream that starts with $200 and endless determination. The museum display case held my father's original tools from Krakow, my 1978 immigration documents, and 46 years of construction company awards. A small plaque read, "Success isn't inherited, it's earned." Derek didn't attend the opening. He was working at a small firm in Milwaukee, rebuilding his reputation case by case. We talked monthly, now stilted conversations that might someday become real again. Brittany had filed for divorce. Some bridges burned completely. A young Guatemalan girl tugged my sleeve. Sir, are you really the man who built all this? I looked at the thriving community center that had once been my house. No, sweetheart, America built this. I just provided the foundation. In America, you can build anything except character. That comes from where you started.